of May 15 for the trial.
Stop it. Stop it.
The chaos erupts in an instant. Security rushes forward. The defendant has just attacked her own attorney in open court. But this courtroom outburst is only a glimpse into something far darker. Something that would shake the small city of Green Bay, Wisconsin to its core. This is the story of Taylor Denise Schabusiness, a 24-year-old woman who in February 2022 would commit one of the most disturbing crimes in Wisconsin's history. A brutal murder that involved strangulation, necrophilia, and dismemberment, all centered around a fascination with serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. The victim was 25-year-old Shad Thyrion. And when police arrived at the scene, even seasoned investigators struggled to process what they were seeing.
County Public Safety, how may I help you?
I have no clue what's happening with my girl. Swears that she's found her severed head of her son in space.
It's the early morning hours of February 23, 2022. The 911 call comes in from Stony Brook Lane in Green Bay. The caller is Stephen Hendricks, and what he's reporting seems impossible to believe.
How old is your son?
24, 25?
Has he been missing, or?
No, yeah, he was here yesterday with some chick.
Tara Pakanich, Shad Thyrion's mother, had walked into the basement of her home. She was investigating why a light had been left on. What she discovered in a green bucket would haunt her forever.
Can you tell me what's going on?
Pretty positive my son's head is in a bucket in my basement.
The dispatcher struggles to comprehend what she's hearing. Is this real? Could this actually be happening?
It couldn't be like a fake head or something?
I'm not touching it. I'm not looking at it again.
Officers are dispatched immediately. When they arrive, the scene is beyond anything they could have prepared for.
Do you want to just stay with those two? I'll just go see what.
Where's it at? Go right there. Look right. There's a bucket with its hole on it.
The body cam footage shows the officers descending the basement stairs. At the bottom to the right sits a green bucket with a shower towel draped over it. One officer reaches for the towel. What they see underneath stops them cold. Inside the bucket is the severed head of 24-year-old Shad Thyrion. His face is still recognizable. Next to the head in the bucket is his severed penis and a Jolly Rancher candy. The officers can barely process what they're witnessing. This isn't a training scenario. This isn't a movie. This is real.
That's real, right? That's real, dog. Okay.
But the horror doesn't end there. As they search the rest of the basement, they discover more. Organs in plastic, bags, body parts in cardboard boxes, a storage tote containing Thyrion's bisected torso and one foot, bloodstains, pieces of flesh, kitchen knives.
That's real, dog. If we could get some more units here sooner rather than later, that'd be appreciated. We've got quite a bit of blood down here, and
Shad Thyrion had been strangled, sexually assaulted after death, and then methodically dismembered. And investigators already have a suspect in mind. The woman Thyrion had been with the night before, his ex-girlfriend, someone he'd known since high school. Taylor Schabusiness. To understand this crime, you have to understand who Taylor Schabusiness was in the months leading up to that night. She was 24 years old, married to Warren Schabusiness, who was incarcerated at the time for unrelated charges. Despite being married, she maintained extramarital relationships, including the casual sexual relationship with Shad Thyrion that had lasted about 18 months. Just weeks before the murder in January 2022, Schabusiness had been convicted of fleeing, eluding, and obstructing police. She received a 3-month sentence and was ordered to wear a GPS ankle monitor, but she removed it shortly before killing Thyrion, a detail that would later raise questions about premeditation. Her life had been marked by trauma and instability. She had a documented history of mental health issues, including diagnoses of bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, conditions exacerbated by chronic methamphetamine use. Shad Thyrion, meanwhile, lived a relatively quiet life in his mother's basement on Stony Brook Lane. He worked various jobs and had his own struggles with substance use, including methamphetamine. He and Schabusiness had known each other since their high school days. They weren't in a committed relationship anymore, but they maintained contact and occasionally spent time together. On that February night, neither Thyrion's mother nor her boyfriend were home. The basement was private, isolated, and what began as a drug-fueled encounter between two people with a complicated history ended in unimaginable violence. Detectives quickly trace a possible location for Schabusiness, an apartment on Eastman Avenue. They also flag a gold Chrysler Town and Country minivan connected to her name.
Is this blood? Does this look like blood to you? Or am I just tripping?
bloody footprint. You see this right here?
Could possibly be blood.
When officers approach the apartment, they notice what appears to be blood on the ground. Bloody footprints leading to a door.
Hi, Taylor. How's it going? Officer Russell with the Green Bay Police Department.
Inside, they find Taylor Schabusiness. She's covered in dried blood. Her thumb is cut. There are scratches on her arms that she would later claim were self-inflicted.
Taylor, you have a warrant for your arrest. Just put your hands behind your back quick. You got blood on your head? No, on your hands.
Schabusiness is arrested on the spot. When they search the minivan she'd been using, borrowed from a friend, they discover even more remains. A foot, possibly a leg, more body parts that she'd apparently started to transport, but, as she would later say, got lazy. Hours later, at the Green Bay Police Department, Detective David Graff sits across from Taylor Schabusiness in an interrogation room. She's been read her Miranda rights. She waives them. She's ready to talk. And what she says over the next several hours will become the centerpiece of the prosecution's case.
Do you know Shad? And how do you know Shad?
He's my ex.
He's your ex-boyfriend?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they found a kind of disturbing stuff at the house there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Schabusiness isn't defensive. She isn't trying to hide what happened. In fact, she's disturbingly forthcoming about the details.
A lot of blood, basically Shad's head. Yeah.
She explains that on February 21st, 2022, she picked up Thyrion from his home around 9:30 p.m. They went to the Eastman Avenue apartment with a mutual friend where they smoked cannabis. After the friend left, things escalated.
So you were smoking, what would that be?
Ice. Ice.
Ice?
Ice.
Ice, methamphetamine. They smoked meth together and also injected trazodone, a sedative often misused for its effects. Then they returned to Thyrion's basement. His mother and her boyfriend weren't home.
Like we were smoking, right? I'm terrible at explaining things, so let's see here. And then here comes the chain, right? And then he put it around his neck. Well, we were like playing around and then...
What happened next was a sex act that turned deadly. Schabusiness describes using a metal chain, what she calls a dog collar, during sex with Thyrion, erotic asphyxiation, strangulation during sexual activity.
And then I just didn't stop. I don't know why. I didn't stop.
You guys done something like this in the past? Do you use manual strangulation during sex at all? Is Shad like that?
A manual strangulation? Yes.
But this time, she didn't stop. She strangled Shad Thyrion for 3 to 5 minutes until he died. She watched as his face turned purple, as blood emerged from his mouth, as he stopped breathing. And then, according to her own confession, she performed oral sex on his corpse and used sex toys on his body for 2 to 3 hours. Necrophilia, sexual assault on a dead body. When morning came on February 22nd, she began the dismemberment.
How did you dismember his body then?
Knives.
With what?
Knives.
Knives? Just more than one knife? Where'd you get those from?
Kitchen.
She used kitchen knives from his mother's own kitchen. When her own knives weren't sharp enough, she improvised.
Bread knife works good.
Bread knife?
A bread knife works good, yeah.
She decapitated Thyrion over a bucket to collect the blood, which she poured down the basement shower drain. She bisected the torso. She filleted the back. She removed organs individually through abdominal and rib cuts. She placed body parts in plastic bags, cardboard boxes, and the storage tote.
Yeah, I can't believe I left the head though.
What'd you do with the body?
The body's there.
So we're gonna take the head somewhere?
I like that.
Throughout the interrogation, Schabusiness displays a disturbing detachment from the horror of what she's describing. At times, she even laughs.
Well, you're gonna have fun trying to look for all the organs, but yeah, they're all dismembered. Yeah.
But there's another layer to this story, one that would emerge as investigators dug deeper into Schabusiness's background and psychology. During the investigation, detectives examine Schabusiness's phone. What they find in her search history is chilling. Multiple searches related to Jeffrey Dahmer, one of America's most notorious serial killers.
Were there several searches related to Jeffrey Dahmer and other items on the device that were consistent with Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes. Things such as flaming pentagram, Jeffrey Dahmer, things like that. KKK, I believe, is one of them.
Jeffrey Dahmer murdered 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991 in Wisconsin. His crimes involved necrophilia, dismemberment, and cannibalism. And like Dahmer, Schabusiness committed her crime in Wisconsin. Like Dahmer, she dismembered her victim. Like Dahmer, she engaged in sexual acts with the corpse. Forensic psychologist Diane Litton would later testify that Schabusiness claimed to have had a thing with Jeffrey Dahmer about a year before the murder. A fascination, an obsession perhaps. But in jail calls that would later be revealed in court, Schabusiness offered a different explanation for the killing. She admitted that the strangulation may have stemmed from an argument over stolen drug money.
I wasn't supposed to be doing business with my ex, but I did, and then what he did, he pocketed the money that I was supposed to have, so I went out and took his out for that.
According to this version, Thyrion, who she claimed was in a gang called the Satan Disciples, had pocketed money from a drug deal. She confronted him, and she killed him for it.
I was on the run in Texas after having my baby taken. I decided to make things right and clear it up north. When I got back, they put my on the bracelet. I went to buy a bag on the low, so I went to my ex, who was a Satan disciple, and family, we all Latin kings, so we beeping. We don't with SDs. He pocketed the cash, 2 chains. I asked him, where my money at, fool? And he said, I ain't got it. His face turned purple. There was blood coming out of his mouth, heartbeat. And I said, damn, this I would ever be doing would be sucking. Then I chopped his off and concealed the crime. I used a nearby shower drain to pour out the blood and put in bags and boxes around the basement to store the body parts in, and plastic bags for the organs. I was covering up his body, and while the people were entering the basement, I would cover him up, and then when they would leave, I would cut him back up. After chopping it up with my roommate, I went to go get rid of the body.
The truth of what motivated this murder, drugs, revenge, sexual gratification, mental illness, or some combination, would become the central question at trial. On March 1st, 2022, Taylor Schabusiness was formally charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault. But before the trial could even begin, Schabusiness's behavior in court would make national headlines. On February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day, Schabusiness was in court with her attorney, Quinn Jolly. He was requesting a trial delay for a competency evaluation. Suddenly, without warning, she lunged at him.
Week of May 15 for the trial.
Stop it. Stop it.
Deputies rushed to restrain her as she attacked her own lawyer in open court. After the incident, Jolly withdrew from the case. He was replaced by attorney Christopher Froelich on March 3rd, 2023, but the attorney attacks wouldn't stop there. In April 2025, she would attack another attorney, Curtis Jolka, in court. On September 1st, 2022, Schabusiness entered a not guilty by reason of insanity plea. This would set up a bifurcated trial, first determining guilt, then determining mental responsibility. The trial began on July 24, 2023, in Brown County Circuit Court. Judge Thomas Walsh presided. The prosecution laid out their case in methodical, horrifying detail. Tara Pakanich testified about discovering her son's severed head in the basement. Police officers described the crime scene. And then came the medical testimony. Dr. Vincent Tranchita, the medical examiner, walked the jury through the autopsy findings. He described the decapitation, the evisceration, the stab wounds, the removal of flesh from bones. Jurors were shown photographs of the severed head. They saw diagrams of the injuries. The courtroom was silent except for occasional gasps and the sound of someone crying. The toxicology report on Thyrion showed cocaine, methamphetamine, and marijuana in his system. But the cause of death was clear: strangulation. The manner of death: homicide. The prosecution played Schabusiness's full confession. For hours, the jury listened to her describe in her own words what she had done, how she had strangled Thyrion, how she had sexually assaulted his corpse, how she had dismembered his body with kitchen knives. How a bread knife works good. The defense argued that Schabusiness suffered from bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and was in a state of methamphetamine-induced psychosis. They presented evidence of her troubled background, her mother's death in 2009, her brother's death in 2022, her history of substance abuse. They argued she was too impaired by drugs and mental illness to be held fully responsible. But the prosecution countered with expert testimony. Forensic psychologists testified that while Schabusiness had mental health issues and was under the influence of drugs, she still knew right from wrong. She had tried to conceal the crime by dismembering the body. She had poured blood down the drain. She had transported body parts in a vehicle. These were the actions of someone who understood the wrongfulness of their conduct. On July 26, 2023, after deliberating for approximately 50 minutes, the jury reached a verdict on the guilt phase.
First verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Schabusiness, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the information, dated this date, July 26, 2023, signed by the foreperson. Second verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Schabusiness, guilty of mutilating a corpse as charged in count 2 of the information, dated this date, July 26, 2023, signed by the foreperson. The next verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant, Taylor Denise Schabusiness, guilty of third-degree sexual assault as charged in count 3 of the information, dated this date, 26th day of July, 2023, signed by the foreperson.
Guilty on all 3 counts: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, third-degree sexual assault. The next day, July 27, 2023, came the mental responsibility phase. The jury deliberated for about 1 hour before rejecting her insanity defense. They found that she did not suffer from a mental disease or defect that absolved her of criminal responsibility. Taylor Schabusiness would be held fully accountable for her actions. The sentencing hearing took place on September 26, 2023. Victim impact statements were read, and they revealed a family torn apart by unimaginable loss. Shad Thyrion's uncle, Taylor Schabusiness, addressed Schabusiness directly.
I basically just wanted to say that there's no excuse for what you've done. I don't care if it's drugs or upbringing, you know. We all go through hard times growing up. You have the opportunity to change that. You have the opportunity to see that you have a problem.
His voice was filled with anger, with grief, with disbelief at what had happened to his nephew.
You did the most cowardly, weakest things that you could do possible. You know, you meet a person in school, you become friends, become a girlfriend, boyfriend, lovers, gain his trust, an innocent person that's very kind, would do anything for you.
He spoke about how Shad had been a kind person, someone who trusted Schabusiness, someone who never saw this coming.
So that name Taylor Schabusiness fits you well. And I'm not a praying man, but after Judge Walsh's sentences today, I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idolistic Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer was beaten to death by another inmate in prison in 1994. The uncle's message was clear. He hoped the same fate awaited Schabusiness. But then came a statement that surprised everyone in the courtroom. Michael Thyrion, Shad's father, approached the microphone.
Taylor, I just wanted to say that I forgive you for what you've done to my son. Yeah, you made a bad choice, and now you have to live with it.
In a moment of extraordinary grace, Shad's father forgave his son's killer.
I'm gonna miss Shad. He was a wonderful child too. Growing up, just mild-mannered and just happy, and I know you made a bad choice, and like I said, I forgive you. It does no good for me to hate you, you know. I know you got a heart. I know you got a mind. I wish you no harm. I hope things go well for you.
The courtroom was silent. Some were moved by his words. Others were stunned. How could he forgive something so unforgivable? When it was Schabusiness's turn to speak, she declined. She remained silent, just as she had throughout most of the trial. Judge Thomas Walsh then delivered the sentence. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for the homicide charge, plus consecutive terms totaling 10.5 years for the other charges, 7.5 years for mutilating a corpse, and 3 years for sexual assault. Judge Walsh described the crime as an offense to human decency and emphasized the need to protect society. In Wisconsin, where the death penalty had been abolished, life without parole was the harshest sentence available. Taylor Schabusiness, at 25 years old, would spend the rest of her life in prison. But the story doesn't end there. Schabusiness was transferred to Taycheedah Correctional Institution in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, a women's prison where she would serve her life sentence. She initially filed a notice of appeal on November 22, 2024, but her appellate attorney submitted a no-merit report in March 2025, concluding there were no arguable grounds for reversal. In June 2025, Schabusiness dropped her appeal. But in July 2024, there was another violent incident. Schabusiness was at the prison for a medical visit regarding a staple that had become lodged in her arm. During the visit, she lunged at a nurse with tweezers. When a sergeant intervened, Schabusiness struck her with a tray and swung a metal table at her. She was initially charged with felony battery by a prisoner. But on October 8, 2025, she pleaded no contest to a reduced charge of misdemeanor disorderly conduct.
Mr. Freilich, what is the status?
Conferred with my client, Ms. Schabusiness has decided that she wishes to enter into a plea agreement with the state.
On December 1, 2025, Judge Anthony Neals sentenced her to 90 days in jail, the maximum for a misdemeanor, to be served consecutively to her life sentence. At that hearing, Schabusiness made a brief statement, one of the few times she's spoken publicly since her conviction.
Do you believe that you are freely, voluntarily, and intelligently changing your plea today?
Yeah, I'm going in with the plea because that's what I put my initials down on.
She apologized for the assault, claiming she didn't mean to go off and was acting out of pain and fear. She requested a lenient sentence of 10 days with electronic monitoring. Her request was denied. Judge Neals cited the severity of the assault and the lasting injuries suffered by the sergeant. Body camera footage shown in court depicted the chaos and violence of the incident. As Schabusiness left the courtroom, she made defiant gestures, flipping off the camera, blowing a kiss, the same disregard for authority and social norms that had characterized her behavior throughout the murder case. Her attorney has indicated plans to appeal the 90-day sentence, citing her mental health issues and history of addiction. As of early 2026, Taylor Schabusiness remains incarcerated at Taichida Correctional Institution, serving her life sentence without the possibility of parole, plus the additional 10.5 years from her murder conviction and the 90 days from the prison assault. This case has left an indelible mark on Green Bay, Wisconsin. For the Thyrion family, the pain is unending. Tara Pakinich will never forget what she saw in that basement. Michael Thyrion will never get his son back, though he has chosen the difficult path of forgiveness. Kelly Thyrion still struggles with anger and the desire for justice, or perhaps revenge. The question that haunts this case is why? Why did Taylor Schabusiness do this? Was it the drugs, the methamphetamine and trazodone that clouded her judgment? Was it mental illness, the bipolar disorder and schizophrenia that experts testified about? Was it rage over stolen money, as she claimed in jail calls? Was it a sexual compulsion, a dark desire that she acted on in the worst possible way? Or was it something else entirely? A fascination with Jeffrey Dahmer that twisted into a horrifying imitation? Perhaps it was all of these things. Or perhaps we'll never truly understand what drove a 24-year-old woman to strangle, sexually assault, and dismember someone she had known since high school. What we do know is this. On February 23, 2022, Shad Thyrion's life was taken in one of the most brutal ways imaginable. A young man who, by all accounts, was kind and trusting. Someone who loved his mother. Someone who had his whole life ahead of him. And Taylor Schabusiness, whether driven by madness, malice, or something in between, chose to end that life and to desecrate his body in ways that shocked even hardened investigators. She will live out her days behind bars, and the memory of what she did will live on as one of Wisconsin's most disturbing criminal cases. A reminder that sometimes the monsters are real, and they live among us until they reveal themselves in the most horrifying ways. This is the story of Taylor Schabusiness and the murder of Shad Thyrion, a story of violence, depravity, and a crime that defies comprehension. A story that reminds us that evil exists, and that justice, while it can be served, can never undo what has been done.